astrologer Wonder Girl, and I am here to give you your weekly forecast for the week of Sunday, October 16th to Saturday, October 22nd. Now, in these weeklies, I normally go through each day of the week and break everything down. I do that because I like to be specific, I like to give you details, I like to outline your week at the beginning and go for that. But this week, I have found that there is one alignment in the sky that is really dominating all the rest, and that is really dominating the story of what is happening and where we're going. And I really want to take some time today to really focus on that, on what that means, on how we're feeling about it, and go in deep instead of focusing on the day-to-day. Because this week, in all honesty, there's not going to be a lot of different things going on. It's going to be one story, and it's going to be a hard story, and it's going to require a lot of patience. So what I want to talk about is Mars and Pluto conjunct in Capricorn, which has been happening or coming exact for a little bit. You may have felt it a little bit last week, but it won't be exact until Tuesday of this week. And when it is exact, what I mean is Mars and Pluto are going to be exact at the same degree in Capricorn. They're both going to be conjunct at the same spot in the sky. And they're going to be there kind of working together to make something happen. But Mars and Pluto are a little bit of difficult planets because they'd like to get things done, and they bring a lot of good things, but they bring them in hard ways. And now you've got them kind of teaming up in the sky, big bullies over here, kind of like owning the rest of your chart about where you're going and how you're acting and what you're doing moving forward. And so that could be problematic in some ways. It's in Capricorn. And so what this energy really wants you to do is to act, to put plans in action, and to make things happen in your life. Okay, and it's in Capricorn, and Capricorn just cares about doing things. It cares about structures. It cares about foundations. It doesn't care about feelings. It doesn't care about thoughts. It doesn't care about, what other people think. It just cares about, are we going to do this or are we not? And it kind of bullies other people. And it's like, are we going to deliberate about this all day? Are we going to think about what we want? Are we going to be in our feelings? This doesn't feel right. I'm not confident doing this, or this doesn't make logical sense. And Mars in Capricorn, Mars is exalted in Capricorn, is like, who cares about any of that stuff? Like, you can think about it all day and you can have feelings all day, but in the end, are they actually going to give you anything to show for your work? Are you going to be too caught debating things and too caught up feeling incompetent that you can't actually put anything in action? So action is favored at this time. And putting anything in place. The problem, though, is how you go about acting. Pluto is a planet of transformation, of deep change that comes from deep within. So it really favors any kind of change in some way. Pluto is hard because at first, when we first experience it, it can cause us to do things in the wrong way, or to make us feel as though we're bad at something. But the thing with Pluto is that if we just tweak a few small things, and if we figure out like the special Da Vinci Code to Pluto, then we can end up being better at it than we ever thought we could, and we ever thought we could imagine. So if you're having really hard times with something this week and moving forward, and people aren't responding well to you, the key is to really change the way that you act, and to go about acting in different ways. And it's kind of interesting that we're going to have this stuff happening during the presidential debate, which is on Wednesday. Because Pluto and Mars also signals power struggles. Pluto rules power and control. Mars also rules sex, and it rules action. So it can be acting on power, on who gets more power, on who doesn't. It can also have to do with control in sexual relationships. It also has something to do with perhaps why Donald Trump's tapes came out. Not his tapes, but why all this news is coming out about his past and sex and rape and that kind of thing, because Mars and Pluto are all about sex, but not like the warm, cuddly kind of sex either. So that can be a little bit of a problem there, and a little bit with power struggles coming forward. But the thing is, once you learn how to just tweak a few things, then it all opens up for you. It all opens up. I personally think the winner of the debate this week is going to be the one that can remove themselves from the back and forth gridlock, which is going to be highly favored, especially in the sky at this time, and open up and broaden their perspective to see different things and to try acting in ways they didn't think of doing before. So that's really a good thing that's favored at this time. Just know though that this is making a difficult aspect to your relationships right now. You're trying to get to the bottom of your relationships. You're trying to feel your relationships out, figure out what you really want to go and move forward with, and identify with that. And with your feelings. And Capricorn doesn't really care about feelings, your feelings, the feelings of your partner, whatever. So it could be a lot of things where you're taking an action on something, maybe in regards to a relationship, but you're not keeping your other, your significant others or your friends or whatever else in mind. And so it could be very hurtful in that way. Especially because Venus is all about right now in Scorpio getting to the bottom of your feelings, so you could make some decisions that someone else doesn't like and then go about them in a really, really hard way. So you've got to be careful with how you do about that. I think everything in relationships are going to intensify this week with taking action on some things and be really hard. So be prepared for that. The good thing in all of this is that it is making Mars and Pluto is making a good aspect over to the North Node. And the North Node is all about where your future is, where you're going, what you want to create, what your destiny is. And so whatever action you take on this time, I feel like is going to work towards your destiny. Like maybe it's something you wanted to end for a while or something you wanted to start for a while. You're really going to feel good about it moving forward and do that. The problem could be is that once you take this action, you're going to have to try to figure out how do you get it into the big picture of things? How do you make it fit into your life story? Maybe you all of a sudden felt like taking action out of the blue that you didn't think you would take a month or two ago. And now you got to figure out, well, how do I bring it all together? Where did this come from? And it may make you feel, like maybe you're going in the wrong direction. But you don't know why it's making you feel like it's going in the wrong direction because you felt really deep down that this is what you needed to do. So that could be a little bit hard, and on top of that, you've got all this energy coming over in Neptune and Neptune in Pisces and with the South Node there. And I talked about that a bit last week. A lot of last week I mentioned acting on your intuition and acting on your emotions because Mars and Pluto and Capricorn were making a really strong and pretty angle to Neptune with your intuition, and so you want to act on those things, you want to get those things going, and that honestly is going to help you, is if you act on your intuition and do it, but it may be hard to really uncover what it is in your intuition, what it is you feel called to do. It may be hard to get personal revelation or to understand that what you are receiving is personal revelation and to move forward on it. I feel like that could definitely be a challenge there. And even if you do come out with and act on things that you feel like deep down are in your intuition, it could still not sit well with other people. Does that mean that you don't act on your intuition? Does that mean that you don't do it all together? No, it doesn't, especially if that's what you really feel. Or what the other person really feels. It just means that it may take a little bit of an adjustment to get it to a point where it's accepted by other people, where you feel really comfortable with the decision, where you feel really good about what you've done. Especially the moon making a lot of moves this week. It always moves fast, but we had last week, the end of the week, the moon was conjunct Neptune in the South Node, all about intuition, all about acting on insights and things that you get. But now as it moves on throughout the rest of your chart, you're going to get it moving in and out of good and bad angles with Neptune. So it shows me that either you thought you were acting on your intuition last week, and then all of a sudden you're having doubts. Did I do the right thing? Should I have done that? What about this? What about that? And the answer is no. You should have done, if that's what you felt last week, I would go with it. Maybe you can adjust things a little bit to be more in line with your intuition, but you really have to learn to go with that. Especially at this time, your thoughts could be getting in the way. How am I gonna, should I spend this much money on that? Should I really take my life in this direction? Is this the right thing to do? Is this the wrong thing? Your feelings are really going to be your thoughts are really going to be fighting against you this week. Especially your opinions. Well, I have an opinion about this and I have an opinion about that, and I don't know if this is the right thing for me. And I think the feeling to do is to just turn your mind off a little bit and just try to go with your intuition and try to connect with something bigger than yourself. And try to connect with other people to really go from there. That's another thing that's interesting about the debate, is that we've got all this energy in Libra that really wants you to come up with opinions and really wants you to discuss your opinions. And now with all this energy at the end of Libra, you think your opinions are right. Either that or you're just so confused about your opinions, there's no hope. It's one of the two. If you have, about things like that. And we've got Jupiter still in the early phases behind, so you're still trying to work some of the details out, but you should have it, kind of some of your opinion set in stone, and a lot of that is not working well with your actions. It's like whenever you act, sure, you can have opinions, you can have thoughts about it. They don't have to be nice, all the time, but when you actually move forward and do stuff, you really, really do want it to be from a place of intuition, from a place of higher knowledge, from a place that has some deep inner peace that won't change later on. And it's kind of interesting that all of this stuff is happening right around the presidential election, and always happens around the presidential election. Every time this year we've got the sun in Libra, which is all about weighing out your feelings and your options and your opinions and getting really deep into that, and every 4 years before we have an election, we have the sun in Libra trying to weigh things out. And then after the sun is in Libra, it moves over into Scorpio, which is all about, okay, well, now that you've thought about it, what do you really want? That's when we vote. We vote when the sun is in Scorpio, when it's about, okay, forget about everything else, about your thoughts, about your feelings. What is it deep down that you really want, that you've had enough time to think about, in the past, year, a few months or whatever. So it's really interesting that it happens then at that time. A few other things that we have going on, it's important to keep in mind where all the planets are going. Next week, the Sun and Mercury will come out of Libra and will move into Scorpio. And what that means is it's not so much about your thoughts and about your opinions and about what you think is right or wrong or good or bad, and trying to restore the balance. Libra is the scales, trying to restore the balance. But in order to restore the balance, you sometimes have to go too far this way, too far that way, before you kind of get things in the middle. And so once you kind of done that and come out with your opinions and try to get in touch with what it is that you think about things, it then comes time to engage more of those thoughts with your deep feelings. Okay, all right, you think this, but how do you connect that with your feelings? Does that mean something to you or not? A lot of times that's how I remember a lot of things, is not only do I have to engage with it, in my head, I have to really feel something deep down that connects me with it. And so next month is all going to be about connecting your identity with and the way you communicate about your thoughts with your deep feelings inside. It's also going to be interesting because this week Venus moves into Sagittarius, so we've had this energy in our relationships for the past, month, that now all of a sudden your identity, and you're going to have to deal with a little bit more about what we really, really want. And so this past, month or week or two may have been really hard with relationships, trying to figure out where you're going. Maybe some people, maybe during the time of Venus being here, you were in a relationship or someone was in a relationship with you that really figured out what they really wanted, that really resonated with them deep down in their core about what they really felt, about what they really wanted. And that may have brought some things up to the surface. Whenever you're in Scorpio, you're dealing with deep secrets or deep feelings that you have to bring up and talk about. And so that could have brought up some secrets or some revelations. Could have been good, could have been bad. It depends a lot on your personal chart too, that you're now having to deal with. And when Venus moves into Sagittarius on Wednesday, all of that should be dealt with, not dealt with, but all of that should have come out. The deep feelings, what you're going through is here for the most part, at least in your relationships. There's still more yet to come because the sun will come in there and Mercury will be there. But in terms of relationships, it's not so much anymore about what is it you really want? What is it you really feel? Where does it you really want to go? And it's more about, okay, well, now that you said that, can it stand the test of time? Can it move forward? If someone came to you this month and said, you know what, I don't know if I want to be in a relationship. We need to break up. Well, it's okay, all right, fine, let's break up. But once we don't see each other at all, or talk or call or text for a week, 2 weeks, is this something you still want to do? Did you make the right decision? Is this what you really want? Or vice versa, okay, you want to be in a relationship, all right. And then you get in a relationship and 2 weeks later, they're like, I thought that's what I wanted, but now I tried it out and I don't. I don't want that, and so that's going to be a lot of what's happening this week. You also have to keep in mind next week that Venus is going to come over Saturn there too. So when Venus comes over Saturn, a lot of it's the decision will be made, the commitment will be made to either commit to a new relationship, to not commit, to move forward, that kind of thing. You'll be taking your relationships very seriously. So if you feel like someone's not serious about it now, they will be next week. And of course coming up soon as Venus progresses through Sagittarius. So keep that in mind, that all this stuff is going to be happening and all of this stuff is going to be coming up, where it's really a time of just getting in touch with what you really, really want, and figuring out what is going to be actionable, what you can put in place, what you can't, and really being patient while all this stuff happens, and learning how to act in the right ways to get what you want, to move yourself forward and to not create more problems than necessary. But it's not going to be a super easy process in the meantime, because you may have trouble fitting it into the bigger picture. You may have trouble feeling all warm and cozy about everything that's happening and moving forward. But just know that it's here to help you figure out what is that you really want, to maybe learn some lessons that are really, really hard. If something happens to you this week that's hard, it's because there's a lesson in it that you need to learn. There's something in it, that you need to go through to really fight through and bring yourself. And I don't even want to say fight through, because there's so much Mars Pluto energy that's going to make you want to fight anyways. But there's so much to really sit through and to be patient with, to get you to a better place. Though I don't think it'll be apparent necessarily where that place is by the week's end. Of course, this doesn't have to be negative for everyone. This energy is actually really positive for me. I've got this Mars and Pluto that we have conjunct in Capricorn actually sextiles my natal Mars, which is in Pisces. And this is a good thing, because it helps me get everything in order and move everything forward, and really put things in order, and build things. So I've been doing a lot this week with Wonder Girl, trying to get it going, trying to make big things happen. All of this stuff is also forming a really, really nice sextile to my North Node in Pisces, which is now also almost conjunct the South Node. So this is a great time for me. Just because I'm saying that it's going to be a hard week doesn't mean it's going to be a hard week for everybody. For the most people, it probably will be. You'll probably notice a lot of other people dealing with stuff, but you could have things in your personal chart that are really going to allow you to move forward, to build foundations, to push, and to get things done, and it's favored. Building things this week is really, really favored. You really just have to be careful about how you do it, about what kind of things you commit to. You can't get too bogged down in your feelings. You have to trust that the insights you got last week are right. And you have to keep pushing forward really until a lot of this stuff settles down. So that's your forecast for the week. If you have any questions, since I know there is a lot going on, it could be a little confusing. You got like all cylinders are firing almost this week. Some things aren't, some parts of the chart really aren't being activated, but the parts that are, there's a lot going on and they're fighting with each other, conflicting a bit. So let me know if you have any questions. I might try to do another live video later this week, maybe after the debate, to go more in detail. And I've got some other kinds of things in the works that I'm testing out that we'll see how it goes. But okay, thank you so much, and I will talk to you on my dailies. Hope you have a great week.